Common Core is no longer the plan for Oklahoma's public education system. With a swipe of her pen, Governor Mary Fallin enacted House Bill 3399, repealing the educational standards that had been put in place since the legislature approved Common Core 4 years ago. The new law sends the state back to previous standards that will have to do until different standards are written for students in public schools.
Aides answering the phones at the governor's office were swamped with calls like this one.
Okay, and she's already signed that bill. Yes, about 10 minutes ago. All right. Thank you for calling. You have a good day.
All the callers wanted to know was whether the governor had signed House Bill 3399, known as repealing the Common Core state standards for education. Reaction to the governor's decision was swift and predictable. A policy reversal and against the strong vocal objections from educators, military families, institutions of higher learning, and the business community, wrote the vice president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It is evidence of how passionate Republicans are about leading on critical education reform for Oklahoma students. That was a reaction from Dave Weston, chairman of the state Republican Party. Amber England, the interim executive director for Stand for Oklahoma Children, reacted saying, "The ultimate and unfortunate losers in this game of political brinksmanship are Oklahoma's children." And Speaker of the House, Representative Jeff Hickman, said, "We now begin the process of drafting superior education standards for Oklahoma schools." Common Core was proposed by the National Governors Association, whose current chair is Governor Mary Fallin. The NGA and chief state school officers across the nation collaborated on the standards that were approved by 45 states, including Oklahoma. House Bill 3399 dumps the standards Oklahoma adopted and which the governor supported just a few months ago.
Common Core was designed to address the needs of our nation and our workforce to once again make sure that America remains a superpower of the world, that we're competitive in our international global economy, and to make sure that we have the skill sets that we need. It was the individual states, it was the governors coming together with the business community, with the educators to talk about what should our children know at each grade. And it's not a federal program. Some people think it is, but it's really not.
So why the repeal? Because some Oklahomans are afraid Common Core really means a federal takeover of public education.
We've heard those concerns. We think Common Core has become a divisive issue in the state, and we have to move forward. Education is that critical for our state, for our children.
But educators make the point by repealing Common Core, the state is actually opening the door for the federal government to take over virtually the entire Oklahoma public education system.
If what you want is to make sure the federal government doesn't play a big role in Oklahoma education, then you don't want this bill to pass.
David Pennington is the superintendent of Ponca City Public Schools and president-elect of the American Association of School Administrators. He says going back to No Child Left Behind and the old PASS standards is in fact a disaster for Oklahoma public education.
By 2015, 100% of the kids in the nation were going to be proficient in reading and math, which we know is unrealistic, which if you talk to the people who wrote the bill, they'll tell you they knew it was unrealistic, but they always thought that it would be reauthorized and changed before 2015 got here.
Just hours before the governor announced her decision, 2 retired generals went public with a study from the National Organization of Retired Military Leaders that endorsed Common Core as protecting national security. The report finds that current high school graduates in the U.S. and Oklahoma are largely unable to qualify for military service. Retired Air Force Major General Jay Edwards.
When 75% of our young people, 17 to 24, that want to join the military are not able to do so for one or more reasons. But the one we're focusing on here today is education.
The report finds that over 23% of Oklahoma high school graduates who try to join the Army cannot score high enough on the Armed Forces Qualification Test to be accepted. Retired Air Force Lieutenant General Richard Burpee says today's military needs smart people who can operate in a high-tech world, something Oklahoma is not producing in sufficient numbers.
The high technology stuff that we have now in the military is far greater than when General Edwards and I were flying airplanes and serving in our country, they've become far more complicated, and it demands a lot higher standard in education.
Joining the generals was Ray Potts, vice president of Potts Exploration. He says the business community backed Common Core because, like the military, it needs a highly educated workforce. Potts says his business, oil and gas exploration, is not what it used to be.
I've been in the oil and gas business, as you can tell by these gray hairs, some 50 years. And our technology has improved so much. It requires well-educated personnel to drill these expensive horizontal wells.
Stephen Crawford, executive director of the Cooperative Council for School Administration, says their biggest concern is the move back to old standards that will not meet the requirements under No Child Left Behind.
We are in kind of a mess right now, and that's our question. If we sign 3399, what then? And the what thens can be a wide range of different solutions that take place, and it's a little scary for us.
In announcing her decision, Governor Fallin admitted that repealing Common Core leaves a lot of unanswered questions and the possibility of losing federal education funding.
It's a possibility. We won't know until that happens.
The governor also says she does not know how the federal government will react to the decision because it directly impacts the state's waiver to abide by No Child Left Behind.
We won't know the answer to that question until it should happen. I don't know the answer to that question yet.
But the governor still sees good things from repealing Common Core.
The one thing about the Common Core debate in our state that's been good for our state is that it's focused our attention on the importance of education. Yeah, I know this process is not going to be easy. There are things in the legislation that will cause challenges, but there's also great opportunity.
The State Department of Education has until August of 2016 to come up with new education standards that won't appear to be just Common Core rewritten, a process that will include higher education, career tech, and the Commerce Department, along with the state legislature. Back in the classrooms of Oklahoma, while that process is underway, teachers will still be left with the actual job of educating children, no matter what choices the politicians make.
Teachers finally just say to heck with all that and do what they want to do, and that's kind of where we're going to be if we step back. You're going to have schools all over the place.